Hello and merry meet. It's I, RowanRavenwolf. Here we are again for another Witchy book club. So we are doing chapter 9 on trance. So this is all on trance work and meditation. So this is a really, this is one thing about this book is it's everything that's really crucial to the foundation of witchcraft. So I'm gonna hold up the book. Hang on. There we go. Okay. Spiral Dance by Starhawk, and it is chapter 9. So I did not go live last week because I was still moving and I actually lost track of what day it was. So my intention was to go live, but did not because I lost track of what day it was. It does happen. So it is kind of funny when that happens, right? So yeah, on Monday I was like, oh, I go live tonight. And then my husband's like, I thought you went live on Sundays and Tuesdays. And I'm like, isn't it Sunday? And he was like, no, it's Monday. So for those that were waiting, I apologize. But yeah, I literally lost track of what day it was. So, all right, so welcome everybody. I'm going to just do a quick share. I think it pauses me while I share. So, all right, so welcome everybody. I'm going to just do a quick share. I think it pauses me while I share. And I think it pauses me while I share. Yeah, I do think it pauses me. So I'm trying to not talk when I share. So it's I love being in the desert. So I love it because at night it's nice and cool, in the day it's nice and warm. So I missed that.
So how's the Wyoming?
I love it. I absolutely love it. Like when I walked around and there's deer all over. So and like they said, yeah, occasionally there's even been time where like black bears have walked through town because we're in the middle of the wilderness. So yeah, so it's that time of year where we'll probably like just be outside and see an elk just walking down the street. Like, yeah, I live here too.
Wow, because that made me think of like when you said bear, like, oh, looks like Artio's around. If you know who that is, the Celtic goddess of bears.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So haven't seen one yet. Like black bear, I mean, bears can be scary. Like when I was in California, we saw 4 black bears, and but black bears, like there's only one reported known instance where they've unalived a person. But we also have grizzly bears here. Grizzly bears, we look like food to them. So, and unfortunately, because some black bears are actually brown in color, grizzly bears are brown. So it's like, oh, how will you know what bear it is? So, I mean, black bears are smaller, but they're still big.
He's still a honker.
Yeah, they are. They are still big, so but it's super fun. So yeah, so I'm loving it. My husband's even loving it. It's just a very nice change from a big city. Very, very nice change. I miss the mountains.
It's a lot less humid, isn't it? A lot less going outside and thinking, oh, it feels like I'm just like being sandwiched between moisture.
Yeah, because I would try to go walk like even at like 8 and 9 at night, but like I would go like half a mile and just be drenched, and it was like 9 at night. Actually, one of my friends posted on Facebook the humidity, and it was like 9 o'clock, and they were trying to have a barbecue, and I'm like, yeah, I don't miss that.
Yeah, having a barbecue when it's so humid, it's like you're not even close to the fire, and you're already like sweating
Yeah. Yep.
because that heat will just linger in the air. And just ugh.
Yeah, and like when we had lived out here out in the West, when my kids were really little, I would take them camping, like from usually late April, early May until the end of September. And when we got to Illinois, I tried to do that, but it was like June, July, and August. It's just so gross. Like it's just
Ugh.
not even fun.
Ugh.
'Cause yeah, it's like, like, so we would always go to Devil's Lake in Wisconsin because you can at least get in the lake and get cool.
Yeah.
So,
And what
yeah.
part of Wisconsin was that?
Huh?
What part of Wisconsin was that?
It's in Baraboo. It's really close to Wisconsin Dells. Everybody knows Wisconsin Dells. Well,
Oh,
usually. I think that's like it's like south. It's like 3 hours from Chicago. So it's like southwestern Wisconsin.
oh,
So it's still humid, but like you can rock climb and
it's bearable, humid.
yeah, yeah, it's a lot more bearable than Illinois. And there's hills, so it's the closest thing you can get to mountains. But like, yeah, we would go and we'd spend like 3 days in the lake, literally, just hanging at the lake, and then and at night it cooled down enough that you didn't feel the humidity. So yeah, we spent a lot of time there. But yeah, I did go one summer in July to Kentucky, and
Oh,
that yeah, I was like, oh yeah, no Kentucky camping in the summer.
yeah,
So,
we're not going to go get the Colonel's chicken for the summer. Nope.
well, the actual first Kentucky Fried Chicken actually opened in Utah.
Yeah, but that's the funny part. It's like, isn't that ironic? It's like halfway across the sheesh.
Well, the funny thing is I didn't notice this before, but like I drove to Salt Lake yesterday, and there's like this big sign, and I don't know how long it's been there, but it said Kentucky Fried Chicken corporate headquarters, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know their corporate headquarters were there, but yeah, there was a sign that said corporate headquarters. So I'm like, how is that Kentucky?
It just makes you just want to say, so, Mr. Sanders, are you lost?
Well,
Oh God, that's
usually.
so, Mr. Sanders, I didn't know you were a Mormon.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, and it's funny because I left Evanston, it was 40 degrees, and I get down to Salt Lake an hour and 20 minutes later, and it was 70 degrees down there, and I'm like, yeah, I think I like the mountains where it's nice and cool. So
Yeah, it's just it goes more and more in the dirt. Oh,
yeah, when I came back, it was like a nice 75 degrees here, and by the time I left Salt Lake, it was like 90, which it's not bad when there's no humidity.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't complain about that because I was like, well, it's warm, but I'm like, oh, I guess it is hot outside. So, tonight's book discussion on spiral dance is on trance work. Yeah, so I always feel like meditation and trance work is like really important to help get us, well, first, I think like to sometimes calm and ground us as people, but when we really want to connect with like our spirit guides or with um, all of a sudden I'm blanking deities. There we go. I don't know why I was blanking on that. Um, Trance work actually, I think, is so important. So, Brent, what's your thoughts on the importance of trance work?
Now, well, when I hear trance work, a lot of people be thinking like, is that when you get possessed? No, 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 no. But then again, when we hear that big fancy word possessed, ultimately it's when you're having the connection with the specific spirit
entity, energy, what have you, and then you work in unison with it. And when you're in that unified state, that's the trance coming through. And usually, when somebody's in that trance state, like for an example, if they're one of the ways that hmm, one of the ways that I've been able to realize, oh, I'm in a trance state, is when I listen to the sound of Venus every time when I wake up and right before I go to sleep, and my body just starts swaying back and forth, and I just go all into it, and I just let it flow, and I'm not even aware of like anything else, just swaying back and forth. And by the time it's over, I realize, oh, it's been 3 hours, but it hasn't felt like 3 hours. So it's like the awareness of time just goes out the window. And that's also, in a way, kind of important to also keep in mind because usually when we do any kind of working at all, when we detach from that realization that time doesn't exist, and we're in that state, that that trance state, we're in the state of awareness where we're beyond the the limitations of time and the worldly limitations because we're just in a state where that doesn't exist. Yeah, that's what I got at least.
Yeah, and you made some very valid points. Because I've had times where I felt like I'm gone for like hours, and I realized it only was an hour, but I feel like I was in a trance state for like 7, 8 hours. It time is just different, and also like for me personally, I feel like it relieves like the mundane world stresses that we get. Because we all get those stresses, like, oh, did I turn off the oven when I left the house? Like little things like that. Or did I remember to pay that bill? Or, oh, I didn't do this at work before I left. We get those little mundane stresses. And when you go into a trance, you don't think about that. It like really lifts a lot of that off your shoulders. And so if you're dealing with something that's really stressful, I think that it's a really great way, even if you're just like, I just need to go into this trance state to, come up with a good intention for going. Most of the time, maybe go talk to your spirit guide and have them help guide you through the mundane stress. But yeah, it's amazing how it lifts that all off. What do
Yep,
you
and
think?
yep, and your whole awareness is completely either non-existent, like you're not even aware of it, but at the same time, when you're being put in that state of awareness and you're starting to be in that trance state, that's also kind of important that you have this awareness of like, okay, if I'm going to be moving forward with this specific method or what have you, whichever deem fit you're going to do, it's very important to know, okay, so what's your main focus of doing insert whatever procedure thingy mobini here, what you're trying to do with it. Okay, so if that's what you're trying to do, so are you familiar with this energy? Are you familiar with what this is intended to do? Are you aware of what this can do? Are you familiar with the entity or spirit or what have you that you're going to be having work alongside you when you do it? Because just going and saying, I'm going to go with you. So you're going to just think, you're just going to pick Lilith and think that she's going to come along just because? You can try, but I can't guarantee you it'll be well. Oh, I bet you'll be fine. Alright, Lilith, I'm ready. Huh? What? Ready for what? Oh, for me to care? No.
Yeah. And that's a good one to pick because like if you've not worked with Lilith before, you want to make sure you actually learn about her and everything. You don't want to just jump into a trance state right away and connect, especially with a deity you haven't worked with.
Yeah, especially with her.
Yes.
She, with her, it's like the best way I could describe it is that if you're just minding your own business and going on your own way, and if you're being authentic with yourself, She just waltzes in on her own. She just comes in on her own, just very, what's going on over here? Okay, well, I'm just gonna be right here and just see. Okay. I kind of like this. Consistent. Okay. But the minute the slip happens, oh, never mind. This cake was a lie. Nope. Nope. I'm out of here. Boring. Or like, oh, no, this is too embarrassing. I'm going.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely don't just jump in with both feet. Trance work is not a swimming pool.
Yep, it's not a kid. There's no kiddie pool. There's only the deep end that we don't know how deep it goes.
Yes. Yes. So you want to make sure you have your swim lessons before you jump in. So all right, we're going to jump into the questions then. So, okay, the first question, what is the significance of naming the shadow in trance work as demonstrated through Valerie's experience? So in the book, and I'm going to hold the book up again, Starhawk gives an example of trance work that a woman named Valerie had. So basically, in a nutshell, and then I'll let Bren kind of add on as he wants. Naming the shadow is a step in the process of understanding yourself and empowering yourself during trance work. So with Valerie, she identified the shadow, her shadow. So this is your shadow work, your personal shadow work. She identified hers as anger and allowed her to confront and integrate that aspect of herself while transforming fear into strength. And she faced her fear. She was able to reclaim her power, and she illustrated acknowledging and accepting the darker traits for personal growth. So I think, like, with reading this, I was like, we do bits of trance work and shadow work. And a lot of my shadow work teachers kind of taught a little bit of that, but it went a little bit deeper. It went into identifying, like, are you dealing with fear, anger, grief? Like, what is it that you need to address? Because sometimes, like, fear and anger, sadness, grief, I'm trying to think, the 5 steps of grief, denial, there we go. They can hold us back, and we need to embrace them. So, Bren, your thoughts on trance work with shadow healing, shadow work?
Now, when it comes to the shadow work, oh, I love talking about this. There's a technique that I call walking the labyrinth. Yes, yeah. If you know about the labyrinth, yeah. Oh boy, here we go. So the way that this lovely exercise works. Now, all you need is just a blindfold, or just something to cover your eyes. You just put it around your eyes, tie it, wrap. Now you can either be standing or sitting. I prefer to be sitting. And before you even start your visualization process, you go within and then you check yourself saying, okay, why am I walking this labyrinth? What's the reason for this? Am I going in to go deeper within myself and encounter the parts of myself that have been swept under the rug and now there's a big dust bunny underneath the rug now with all of my stuff in there? Or am I just wanting just to go inward in myself and allow what's ever in there that's been suppressed or I've been ignoring to finally come out the way that it needs to come out? Either or. And if you want to have more security, you can have stones like you could be holding. Let's see, I'm not going to go over too fancy for stones. You can go with amethyst, onyx, lapis, sodalite definitely. Also, stissenshite. That's a really tongue twister one. Also,
But it's a beautiful
sugilite.
song.
Sugilite, if you want to go with like a little bit more feisty. I mean, sugilite. I like to call it a feisty more. It's a more feisty amethyst. Like, you can also go with onyx, black tourmaline. If you're lucky, azurite or tanzanite. If you're really fancy, blue topaz, larimar would be another good one. Same with kunzite. But the way that you go about it, after you realize, okay, this is what I want to do, this is why I'm going into the labyrinth, so there's the intent. So then you visualize standing in front of the labyrinth, and the way that you move, is you just lift up your hand and you point in the direction of the route you want to go. Then you visualize yourself not move. You're not moving, but like the whole environment's like moving where you're pointing, and then you can go left or right and go in different directions, and you just walk the labyrinth. And while you're walking it, you never know when something will just appear out of nowhere and just go, "Argh," or something will appear and you have to face. The key with it, the big key with it, is that no matter what the heck it is, like something that's making you go, oh Lord Lanta, why am I in a nightmare on Elm Street? How did this happen? Or even if it's something nice and sweet, whatever it is, you acknowledge it, you see it, you just acknowledge that it's there, and you're not going to change anything, but you're not going to let it affect you. You acknowledge it, but then you're still going to move forward with it. And I can't say it would be more common of having things just make you go, Lord Lanta, nope, too much. I can't say because not you. But the ideal is to go through as far as you can, and you're able to go on the next floor or layer when you get to a certain spot that you know, okay, this is going to take me to the next floor. And as you progress, it may get more and more difficult. And when you get to that point of like, okay, I think I've satisfied everything, look through plenty. So then what you would do is that you would just come back to center, and then you would just either say, I prefer to say mentally, that I'm going to be leaving the labyrinth upon the three claps. Then you just remove the blindfold and you're back. That's one way of doing like transfer with the shadow, but not everybody's going to have the same shadow. And in fact, somebody's shadow might be somebody's like, oh, that's like light for me. But that's what makes it so fascinating, because you can have someone be like, you wait a minute, you're not even bothered by having like traumatic things happen in front of you? No. But you get me anywhere near fish? No, no, no. Oh gosh. Now I'm thinking, great, and I'm gonna have fishmen walking in my labyrinth. Crap.
That's beautiful. So I hope that helps. That's going to help somebody out. And I always like to preface, like when I'm doing shadow work myself, or when I'm teaching shadow work classes, or when somebody asks about shadow work, have grace with yourself, because a lot of times we're embracing something, like if you have like a fear of spiders, for example, and if it's like a super bad fear of arachnophobia, you need to have grace with yourself because it's something that has built up. And to be able to take each little piece and tear it down, it will take time. And when you are feeling overwhelmed after any shadow work, even if you're going to incorporate that with trance work, give yourself self-care. So, go have a relaxing bath, go to the spa, go get a massage, go have a Reiki session. Do something for yourself that you love to do. Take time for yourself. Self-care is so important when we're dealing with shadow work. So, all right, I think we're ready to move on to the next question. I'm gonna actually move them because I have them on my laptop, but like looking this way was not. I felt it was kind of rude. So, all right. So, Starhawk describes consciousness and our relationship with trance states. And personally, I tend to find that I can actually get to my subconsciousness and connect with like deities in the cosmos when I'm in a trance state. So, what are your thoughts on that, Bren?
Well, I'm going to throw a big curveball with this. So, astrologically, you look at your chart placements. You want to take a look to see what your 12th house is ruled by. What sign is it? Okay, kinky. I'll put myself in an example. Mine is ruled by Capricorn. So you're probably thinking, so you're having structure, order, discipline, and being a bit shrewd and ruthless in the subconscious and the other side, and with spirits? Yep, that's correct. But how does that work? Oh, that's simple. Okay, I know that there's somebody or some energy here that is didn't have the common courtesy to knock first. So where? Come on, where are you? Come on. The quicker you get this over and done with, the sooner we can get this resolved. That's Capricorn. It's like really like, come on, really shrewd and strict, but at the same time, Capricorn is also the one that is trying to be the one that's leading by example. So in the terms of the spiritual standing, I've kind of have this demeanor of like, okay, if I'm going to be going towards a spirit, well, I'm going to be going towards them as if they're just any other person. And having that understanding of equality, that doesn't give any leeway to make there any hierarchical like ladder be pushed into place. But that doesn't also mean at times too, if an entity or a spirit starts to hissy fit, that I won't say, okay, I get it, you're upset, but quit it. Yes, I know you're hissy fit, but stop, stop. But not only looking at the sign of the 12th house, but also take the look to see which planet rules it. So, well, Capricorn, well, Saturn, and see where he's placed, wherever the ruling planet of the 12th house is at. Well, mine, being Saturn, is pretty much on top of my head, with my moon, and drunk. Yeah, lovely. So, part of my being and just how I am, like my natural, like my embodiment, does also have that quality of being able to not only go from the physical, like the awareness that I'm in, but then also being able to go back into the past or go into the 12th house in that experience and operate from there. So being an Aquarius ascendant, that's one of the gifts they have. They can go from their physical body, but then go into the subconscious exceptionally well because of that dual rulership by Saturn. But then you would also want to take a look to see, well, where Uranus is at. Because why the heck not? My Uranus is in Capricorn. So it's like, oh, it's like being ping pong back and forth. Boing, 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 boing. Yep. But then as well, I would also want to look to see where the North Node Rahu's at. Well, he's over in Sagittarius, so it's just like tic tac toe, three in a row. Friendship circles, network circles, innovations, hopes, wishes, desires are also going to come from the 12th house, spirituality, which then is also going to come from my physical being. So it all just flows and woozy woos together like that. Just as an example.
That's a great example. Astrology plays such a big role in our lives, and we do bring it up a lot because it does play a huge role in how we can tap into some of the aspects that we talk about, like today with trance work, or how we can communicate with others, how we take things, and it helps us like evaluate ourselves and become better people. So I did want to touch on that. Starhawk talks about like the consciousness is fluid and it's an extensive realm, and that when we get into the trance state, that's she calls it like a gateway that really expands our awareness. And when you think about it, when we actually tap into our subconscious, we are like opening a door to another realm. And once you start to do that, we learn more and we grow more, especially spiritually. It's just like I thinking about like when we tap into the Akashic records, we usually do have to go through our subconsciousness versus our conscious self to tap into that. But when we're in trance states, we can access deeper parts of ourselves. It might help develop like your psychic abilities, or you might be able, like, especially like if you have like creative flow issues and you're like, oh, like if you're an artist or a quilter or a writer, any type of artistic abilities, you can enhance your creativity. And sometimes just getting into a nice deep trance you can actually access something that's been blocked. And if you're feeling blocked, like you can't write a poem and you're like, I just can't write this, but I really want to write this poem, a trance might help you out. Um, so it just it's a way to shift your consciousness and experience yourself on a deeper and a richer level. And if you have not done that yet, I definitely recommend it. I know the first time I did a trance, it was just like the most amazing experience. I like remember it as if it was yesterday. And I've done tons of trances since, but it's that first one when you actually get in that deep state. It's just like this eye opening, like, wow, this has always been there and I didn't tap into this yet. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Bren.
Yes, oh yes, I do. And not only is well, the 12th house is also the house of your feet, your toesies. So a good way to connect with the 12th house and the other side is going to sound so weird and probably like, what? Take care of your feet, massage your feet, because like at the bottom of the foot, the sole of the foot, there's a lot of points that if you apply pressure to there, it activates points in the body. And that's also why the sole of the foot is one of the most potent spots on the body to apply essential oils on. One of the most, because it takes it right into the system. So if you take care of the sole of your feet, you'll be able to connect. Well, probably the best example is that when you walk on the earth barefoot, you're connecting to the unseen, which is the earth below you. And that connects you to the 12th house. It's the part where you can't see, and it's beyond your physical body. So you're tapping your footstep on it, and now it's activating it. And yes, that does include when you get in the water. Yep, because that's hitting the sole of the foot. It's activating it.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really, really good point. And actually, let's see, lemon, lavender, and eucalyptus. I love to actually, I have, I call it my foot cream, and I make my own lotion, and that's my foot cream. But also, if you put that essential oil in with Epsom salt and just soak your feet in warm water, it's amazing what that will do. That combination, I can't even, like, I just experimented and I was like, oh my gosh, did I find a treasure trove here? So,
one of the
yeah.
ones, one of the ones that I like to make is taking let's see here, jasmine oil, gardenia oil, blue lotus oil, depending on like the mood that I'm in, um, Tulsi holy basil oil, and if I'm really wanting to just really enjoy every second of it, also either black spruce, myrrh, crap, what's this other one? I'm looking right at it, and it's just, what the heck are you? Um, crap, Frankie, frankincense. Yeah, I call it Frankie.
Frankincense is so good for your skin. It's very, very good for your skin. I actually, my skin cleanser that I make is witch hazel, distilled water, frankincense, lavender, and tea tree oil. And the majority of it is frankincense, but because it just has some really great healing properties for your skin.
That is like I believe it is the resin of the father, I think, isn't it?
Yes,
And then myrrh is the resin of the mother.
the mother. Yep. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, you never know what you get when you come here, when you watch our lives, because we are very knowledgeable on actually a lot of stuff. All right. Okay. So cautions with trance work. So here's our next one. What cautions should we keep in mind when we engage in trance work? So Brent, I'm going to let you jump into that first. Any cautions you can think of?
Well, caution, probably the biggest caution for number one. If you're wanting to go towards an entity for the first time, Do not let anybody or anything influence your perception of said spirit or being at all at first. Because the minute that that comes in, it completely cripples it and taints it. Because their viewpoint is now going to impact your connection with it.
Hmm.
So it is very important, and I know it's easier said than done. Like if you're doing research about a certain spirit or what have you, and then like probably the best example, this one's going over the extreme part. There is a goetic spirit that is known to be probably one of the most violent ones out of all of them. And now, again, because I'm not going to say his name because you'll be like, oh, yeah, him. But that's the idea. When you have somebody like making known that a spirit is extremely aggressive, known to have the assistance of the person calling out to the spirit kick the bucket, yeah, that kind of leaves an impact on people to not even want to go near it, which is not only not fair to the spirit, but it's also not fair to anybody else having the opportunity to go towards that spirit on their own and have that genuine connection on their own way. So that way they can see that spirit firsthand and how it responds to them. Because not every spirit's going to respond the exact same way with every single person. Because as far as we know, the totally definitely not King Solomon who made the Goetia, as far as we know, how do we know he wasn't having like a twat head to that spirit and the spirit was just like, okay, well, I'm going to play golf with some of your assistants' heads, so, oh, he's aggressive, he's destructive. Well, you probably were acting like a dimwit. Maybe that might be why it happened, but we don't know. But it's also very important to know that you have to have that strong sense of self, and you have to not have that fear of being able to fall in that trance state if it's getting to a state or getting close to a direction where you don't want it to go. Being able to pump the brakes on yourself and go, oh, nope, and cut it right then and there. Because you can get pulled into it, and it gets difficult for you to know how to stop yourself. And it
I
takes
think
practice.
that's a really valid point, and I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, even like when I was first working with the Morgan, I was picking up a book at one of the witchcraft stores in Chicago. Um, I think it was, I can't remember who wrote it, but it was about the Morgan, and because I was getting deeper and deeper into working with her. And I will never forget, two ladies were like, "Oh, don't get that book." Like they were literally like they were so fearful and scared of her. And I'm like, I've been working with her for, I think at that point it had been a year, and I had been wanting this book. I'm like, oh, I already work with her. I was just like, but when it, like, I was glad you brought that up because some people's working with certain deities, they have either a good or a bad experience. And some people may just hear rumors because I remember when I talked to those ladies, like they only knew that she was a dark goddess and they didn't want to do dark magic. So they didn't want to work with any dark goddess. And I'm like, well, do you understand what the dark goddesses are? Because a lot of people, because dark, they think it means bad, and that's not what it means. So, we do need to be careful with those perceptions. Go
Yeah,
ahead, Ben.
that's exactly like me being so close with hell and how she's just presented as half living and half in, well, half in light, half in dark, or half alive and the other half just around a corpse. So immediately upon that vision of her, you're like, oh, good Lord, Lanta. But when you take a step back and realize that she comes from this place of like, this is just how I am, kid. I don't care about what you think because this is how I am. And when you see this, of course it's not supposed to be pretty. That's the point. But regardless of that, look beyond what you see. Do you see a life? Yeah, good enough. That's it. Keep it simple. But they look so creepy. Did I stutter? Oh, that's so, that is so hurt. It's like, if just because, well, one day you may be thinking that, well, I don't want to be helping anybody like that out because they're not beautiful. Okay, well, we're going to give it a little bit. Then all of a sudden there'll be a situation where you'll be seen as ugly. Then you will understand how that is. And oh boy, that was a heavy one. Woo!
Hmm. Yeah, and we should never, it's that whole adage, don't judge a book by its cover. I mean, I've met people who physically before you actually like talk to them or anything, people are like, "Oh, they're so beautiful, they're so beautiful." And then they open their mouth and you're like, "Whoa." Sometimes beauty is deep within, so it really doesn't matter. You could look like the elephant man and have a beautiful heart because he actually had a very beautiful heart and people were scared of him because of his deformity.
Yeah. And it's just so, and I mean, because usually there is, I think Odin does this a lot in the mythology, where he tests people by appearing as like a beggar and elderly man, just to see, oh, okay, let's see what you're gonna do. Hey, chef, you mind sparing some coin for an old beggar? Yeah, sure, here. Actually, here, I'll give you 10. Oh, thank you. And that's the test. And with hell, that's the same thing, especially with the fact of when you have, like, say, for an example, there's an animal that is like they have like they're missing an eye and like half their body's like limp. That is, if you choose to take on and adopt that animal, because it's so used to being not wanted or outcasted or just shunned to the side because of just how it is. The minute that you adopt that animal and you have it at your side for years, you will have a bond with something so strong that I can't even describe it.
Yeah.
Woo, woo, that got deep.
Yes, it did. It did get really deep. Welcome, Azriel. How are you today? We'll see if he can hear us.
I hear you. I was just way across the room. Hi, good evening, good night, good morning, whatever you're.
Well,
um,
I still have sunshine. I think Bren and I still have sun. So,
and there you go. Well, I'm chiming in. I was actually live. I forgot today's Sunday, and I was doing my mixing session, with the music, and
oh,
yes, and I looked at the calendar and I said, oh, it's Friday. I mean, Friday,
Sunday.
Sunday, Sunday. Yeah, my days are all messed up. Yeah.
Yeah, mine have been messed up too. So, like, I'm trying to get back into the swing of things
Well,
myself.
you know what? As much as been going on, I think this weekend was one of the longest weekends we ever had. I don't know if you guys can agree with that. It seems like a very, very long weekend.
I don't agree. It didn't seem long enough. Like yesterday, I drove into Salt Lake and I got to spend some time with my granddaughter, and it didn't seem like enough. But my husband was like, "You were gone all day," and I was like, "Oh, okay." So, but yeah, actually, now that I think about it, the fact that I'm going to be going to bed and waking up to work because that's really all that's left after this life. So as
But
we go ahead.
yes. So I was gonna say, but you got a 2 hours difference, right? It's time schedule, but then you got to sleep 2 hours earlier.
An hour, but I'm actually
Okay.
still working. I'm still working my Chicago time, so I'm actually waking up. Well, it would be the same time in Chicago, but it's 5 a.m. here. So, but the nice thing is I get done with my regular job at 3, so I get to go play in the forest. So,
There you go. So you were gonna ask me a question, or what was it?
yeah. So we're talking about trance work. So in Spiral Dance, this chapter's on trance and trance work. And so, what we were talking about is the cautions that we need to keep in mind when we're engaging in trance work. And so, Brennan and I were kind of talking. So, you kind of caught on, I think, in the middle. But if you want to add anything on any precautions that you think need to be taken when doing trance work.
Trance work, like deep meditation or hypnosis
Yeah,
type of
yeah,
work?
like yes, the deep meditation. Yeah. Where
Oh,
you,
well, I don't think I got to that part of the book, but like any magic practice, just be conscious of it, and including like that, if you're allowing yourself to become, be trance, give yourself a break word, a word that you can actually get out of that trance. I'm not sure if you discussed that, but just like anything else, when you're giving up your body or your words, like deep meditation, you definitely have to give yourself a keyword. Like I don't know what they call that keyword. What do you call that? Like if somebody,
I guess keyword would be the thing, unless Brent can think
yes,
of something else. I mean, maybe there's like a different term for it, but I'm
Different
blanking.
term for what?
For like a keyword to snap out of the trance if you need to, or like
yes,
astral
yes.
projection, that word
Oh
that
yeah, whatever you set the word for that. So which word you choose, you you make that decision which one it is.
Right, but that's what we call it, right? A keyword, like a break word. Yeah, because the thing about
That
it,
or an
you have
anchor or an anchor.
at anchor, yes, yes, because that's it's very very crucial because you might wind up in a situation where your intentions aren't going the way they're supposed to, and you might be feeling uncomfortable and in many aspects. So you have to give yourself that like the anchor, like Brent mentioned, or a keyword, something specifically. Like here, let me give you an example. This was not by choice, but I was in sleep paralysis. All right. But due to the fact that I've heard many individuals speaking about the sleep paralysis, I was aware, conscious of a keyword to get myself out of that sleep paralysis. My body wasn't functioning. I wouldn't be able to do anything, but I had a keyword. So as soon as I felt it overcome me, I broke out of that sleep paralysis. Is wow, why is it so hard to say that? But anyhow, so in the same sense, when we're working with trance work, you know, um, it could also fall into the function of like what do you call it? When somebody puts you in a trance, like if I go to a psychiatrist or something, because I definitely want to do something like that. You have to understand the different realms, like Brent was talking about. Some individuals, I think you even said it, that some individuals hear a specific deity or something, and they assume it's darkness, and because you're working with that deity, everything that you're dealing with is darkness. But it's never about darkness. It's understanding the practice. It's understanding what you're focusing on, what your intentions are on, and basically it's you. You are in charge of that motion, especially when you need to break out. Remember, you are in charge.
yes. Yes, and that's great. I'm so glad you brought that up. I also like when I'm teaching my astral projection class, and this works with trance work too, especially if you're going someplace in your trance. You can actually shapeshift into something. So you could shapeshift into like a fly. And that's also a way to protect yourself when you go into a deep trance, if you feel like you need to, like if you're not sure of where you're at, you can totally do that. The other thing, like Starhawk kind of brings up your body, mind, and spirit, like how they kind of need to be balanced. So like if you're having like an excessively, so I know I said earlier like transport can help you with stress, but like if you're having an extremely stressful day, you need to make sure that you're balanced before you go into a trance state. You want to be mindful of your physical, mental, and spiritual health whenever we're doing this. I like anytime I'm doing meditation or trance work, I like to make a sacred space for it. And you can actually put yourself like in a crystal grid of protection so nothing can interfere with you. You can use herbs, you can use crystals. And, Bren had talked earlier about holding crystals to get you in a really good trance state. I like to make sure I've got protection around me, but then I can hold those crystals to make that trance state like stronger. So you can do like the combination so that nothing outside of your circle will interfere with you. So you've got that protection there. But just like Azrael was saying, yes, you need to maintain your awareness and your control. So always make sure you have like a way to snap out of your trance state. So I know a lot of people get scared about possession and fear of negative entities. It's really hard to get possessed. It takes a lot. Like you would know an entity was trying to possess you because it's going to take time for them to be able to do that. But if you have that fear of being possessed, then don't go into a trance state. Because if you have fear, you're going to be like a beacon that's going to be like, come get me. You don't want to do that. And, like if you have a fear of going into a trance state, you need to make sure you get rid of that fear before you do it. Anything?
Yeah, I want to add something else too. When you cast a circle. Let's say you're casting a circle for meditation and of course intentions. And let's say you hypothetically get it interrupted. And during your interruption, you never closed out the circle. So the same scenario, you might have the same consequences if you put yourself in a trance and get interrupted in the trance without utilizing that specific word or getting out of the trance. So that way, you need that discernment and prepare yourself and always stay in that focus because you still might be in the physical awareness here, but that inner spirit version of yourself is lost in the astral, world.
Yes,
I
that's
don't
right.
feel, yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah, that's really important. Brent, anything else that we might have missed?
Well, another thing that I'll also kind of chime into that, like beforehand, it's always, and I suggest it too, before even doing anything, to always just have some, let's say, pre-set parameters for yourself, just to be there, just in case. One of them, is whenever I I kind of felt like uneasy about doing something. I have a specific mark that I draw on myself, and it has only one sole purpose. Whenever I'm in a state of awareness where I'm open and vulnerable, if something tries to be getting onto me, this mark just reacts and it takes it and then just consumes it and it turns into energy. It's like, haha, I'm gonna get him. Well, whoops. And that's all it does. It doesn't do anything else. But that's also how powerful, if you're able to make something and have full confidence of like, yep, if something's trying to be sneaky when I'm just in the zone, like AutoZone, well, I'm sorry, Flo. Your progressive insurance isn't going to cut it, so it looks like you're going to have to become part of the energy source.
Yes, very, very true. So really important for us to like remember that when we're doing trance work. There's a lot to remember, but don't be scared of it. I don't want anybody to feel scared. I mean, it's just like with anything, we want to take precautions. Like if you're gonna go like rock climbing, for example, you want to make sure like if you're outdoors, you have a helmet on. You make sure you have a good rope, that the rope doesn't have any fraying or any damage to it, that your gear's all good and in good shape. Like you want to be safe and have fun, and you can do both. All right. Okay, so here's the next fun question. How can trance work be utilized for personal healing and spiritual development? Ready, Bren?
I mean, it can be used for really much of anything. And I mean, probably one of the best, but then again, this is kind of like taking it to like the real advanced level. Oh boy. You can use trance work to challenge yourself at the state you're in to try and see if you can get yourself to break out of the current frame of thinking and mind and the perspective you have so that way it can advance to something more. But again, when you're going against yourself, when you're facing the mirror image of yourself, trying to have it be improved, it's going to be like, oh, good Lord, the hardest thing ever because you're trying to convince yourself, but when you try to convince yourself, you're going to be also defending from yourself. So it's intense. It's quite difficult. But if you're able to challenge yourself and make yourself come to a new perspective after challenging yourself while defending against yourself,
you'll see how expansive that can be. And I know it sounds like a big giant, the frickle what paradox, but it's true.
It is a paradox, but that it is very true. I mean, it is hard for us to like go, oh, I do this wrong. Sometimes it's hard for us to admit it. So yeah, Bren's really tackling a good one there. It can help us, but it is hard to face sometimes our bad habits or things that may come across not so nice. So, Azrael, how can trance work be utilized for personal healing and spiritual development?
Was it feeling or healing?
Healing.
Okay, okay, that's good. I think you guys top touched about two questions before this. Working with deities, because you can actually, go into to your trance work and actually go. I'm eating a pizza, by the way. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
um, and get in tune with your spiritual guides. And the thing about it, entrust the spiritual guides to walk you through it, because it might give you wisdom, knowledge, and things that you don't know. And it, you learn a lot more better about yourself, and that way it's giving you insight in who you are as the individual. Because think about it, we can go into a trance thinking we know it all, and that's the thing about it. Knowing it all is gonna disallow us to find new things, and allowing ourselves to be in touch with that spiritual guides or special guides. They can actually give us more insight of what we are capable of. Because we can limit ourselves going in there with in a trance with an egotistical way. I know this and that, and I'm overlooking any insights that I know about myself, including any dark things about myself. Sometimes as kids, we could go through specific traumas that we hide away, and we don't even remember or recall, because we hid them so much away. It's so dark inside us that it was something in our past that we just hid away. And touching these spiritual guides and doing the trance, we can go into those places where they're unlocking things that we weren't even know, like that shadow work that we work on. So, the trance helps us find things that we've been missing, things that we didn't know about ourselves, and actually give us more insight and more clarity of the potential that we can do. What more can I do? I might be in a place where I feel that I'm suited and I'm good enough, but we're never good enough. And that trance work actually helps you both in the healing and the spiritual growth.
Yes, it does. It really, really does. Go, Bren.
That also makes me even, because I just thought about this now when I was saying, like, okay, go in and go against yourself and try and push yourself to grow and change. But here comes probably the biggest challenge now. So, when you go in and you face yourself, now you choose to side with the shadow side or side with the light side. And now you advocate for that side against the other. And you see if you can convince the other side to move towards the other. That is difficult. If like say if you choose to align with the shadow side, now you're advocating for the shadow side to the light side, like, hey, this part of us needs to be included. Why? Why should we include that? It's nothing but just things that are just not useful to us. But it's still us. If we're not going to allow this to come towards us and be part of us, then we're not complete without it. But see, you're really pushing that side that's trying to disown it. You're trying to force it to accept it, which that is like a big dose of like, I'm trying to even think like a really strong cure-all medicine, but it's like, oh, I know. It's like consuming black seed oil. It's that oil that is so like powerful that it can pretty much cure any affliction except kick in the bucket, because that's like what it's known for.
I never heard of that one. It's called black seed oil.
Yep, black seed oil.
Yeah,
I
there's
agree.
so many herbs and plants and stuff out there. I was like my granddaughter was asking me because I know a lot about a lot of plants. And she started asking me about trees, and I said, "Oh, honey, I know more about plants than trees, but I should know my trees." So, yeah, like we can use trance work to heal ourselves. It can heal our mind, body, and spirit, just like Brennan Azrael kind of touched on. And I think one thing we need to keep in mind is it's not just when we're diving into our subconscious. It's not just like our bad habits that we're finding there. Azrael touched on this, that if we've suffered a trauma or something, sometimes we like repress good things about ourselves, and those are hidden. And when we do trance work, we can find that. It's that part of yourself that wants to wear your favorite color, but somebody said you couldn't, so you just did what they said. Usually sometimes a parent or a teacher at school when you're young, or somebody who said, "Oh, yeah, that's not a good idea. You're going to get picked on. Don't do it." We've all had those experiences, whether it's at school or
And
home.
you made a good point there. You definitely made a good point there, because it's not only the trauma. There's good stuff that we do, and because somebody picked at us, and we were in the top, let's say the top of our game, even at a young age. Like we played the flute or an instrument like nobody can, and yet they made fun of you. Oh, you're picking up that flute. You must be this and that, and then you shun away from it, and actually gave your gift, you know, to a lost memory.
Yeah, yes, yes. Well, for example, like I danced from age 2 until I think I was like 25, 26. I did modern and ballet, and I was in junior high, and I tried out for the talent show, and I was in the talent show with a dance I'd choreographed, and people started making fun of me. After that, I didn't tell them that I danced, and a couple people in high school, and so it had been years, because junior high to high school, they're like, "Oh, you still dance?" I'm like, "Yeah." I didn't give it up because I loved it, but I didn't tell people that I did it because I didn't want to get made fun of. And so and sometimes people give things up because you're getting teased, and that's not okay. So definitely, like, especially like if you're a parent, be there to support your child, or like even if you're an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent, be there to support them and let them know, especially if they have the talent. Because I had the talent, and I had kids that, and I did find out one of the kids that had made fun of me in junior high was jealous because she couldn't dance and she didn't have that ability. And so sometimes it's somebody else's envy that can actually make you leave a talent. And if you love it, don't leave it. And if you left it, pick it back up again. That's like you hid it in your shadow. That's part of you. So I don't know if anybody else wants to touch on anything along those lines.
Yeah,
Well,
it could.
oh, when situations like that, because I mean, back then I kind of was in the same way too. Like something that's like genuinely me, and then somebody's like, "Oh, hey," and it just makes me just go, "Oh, okay, mom." Back then I would have crumbled, but now it's just like, why are you trying to give me your input? That I don't care. Oh, you think it's dumb, and it's like whatever the heck. That's cute, but your opinion is not wanted nor warranted. So toodaloo.
Azrael, did you want to add something?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, tapping into that like your dance. You know, we were good. At one point or another, and I'm just saying. Not saying it in an exaggerated way or egotistical, but like you mentioned, you were able to dance at that young age to your 20s. Um, when we tap back into that, using the trance, the second time around might be a whole lot better. And maybe that's what it was waiting. It was waiting for us to gain enough energy, like a power boost. So, we forgot it because we felt intimidated by it. But once we use the trance to tap back into it, we're like superpower. Now I'm a super dancer because you know what? The second time around, I know exactly what I need to be at. So if it makes sense, So now you have that confidence in you. It doesn't matter what people say because you gain the growth and development through your shadow work, through your through your journey, and also utilizing the trance. So it all comes in together as one. So you're in full control. Just like Bren's image there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess if any takeaway for anybody, just you know what, embrace who you really are. Embrace your authentic self. Um, it's so important that we are authentic. And it's sad that sometimes society or family or culture can quash that. And being unique and sharing your gifts and talents is what makes everything better. We don't want like a bunch of Stepford wives. I don't know, that movie just comes to mind when I think about not being authentic, you know? All right. All right. What practices do you suggest for inducing a trance? Bren.
Hmm. Probably the best one that I can come up with is aromatherapy would be one, and also listening to certain planetary sounds. And again, which ones do I listen to? Well, you listen to the ruler of your 12th house, which in my case would be Saturn, but then also at the same time the planet that is your Atmakarka, the planet with the highest degree, not counting Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So from Sun to Saturn, whichever one of those planets has the highest degree, that's the one you listen to. You play that, and then you just listen to it. And then that'll activate your 12th house. So for an example, if you're a Aries ascendant, you want to listen to the sound of Jupiter or Neptune. If you're a Taurus ascendant, then you would want to listen to, well, Aries, which would be Mars, Mongol. Then from Gemini, it'd be Venus or Moon. Cancer, it would be Mercury. For Leo, it would be the sound of the moon. Then for Virgo, it would be the sun. Yep, you can kind of see like the reoccurring theme here going back by one. But then when you get to, say,
Scorpio.
like say when you get to Scorpio, you would want to listen to Venus again. But then when you get to Capricorn, you would want to listen to Jupiter. But then when you get to Aquarius, you want to listen to Saturn or Uranus. And if you have Sagittarius, then you would want to go with either Pluto, Pluto, Mars, and that'd be pretty much the two, yeah.
Yeah, you forgot Sagittarius and Pisces.
Oh yeah, Pisces, still Saturn.
Okay,
And then for Sagittarius, you would want to go with Mars or Pluto.
And so if you just joined or you didn't have anything ready to write down, I do repost these lives on my Patreon and my YouTube. So I know sometimes we give some really great information, and if you're not writing fast enough, but please feel free if you need to request, we can retype those for you in the chat,
Yeah.
or we can answer.
Just throw a fish at me and I'll tell you which one you need. Don't literally throw a fish at me, but you get the idea.
All right. Anything else to induce a trance that you can think of, Bren?
Well, now again, depending on whichever puts you in that like lull state, it can be essential oils like Blue Lotus. Probably is going to be one of the big ones. Another one would be gardenia. Another one could be lavender, and I'd even say hyssop also would be another great one. You can also use crap. What do you call it? I'm looking right at it. What the heck's your name? Oh, crap. Dang it. Wormwood. That was it. Gosh. That wormwood, I tell you, it's like, aha, what the heck are you? But yeah, that's another one. Poppy seed too, but be careful with that one.
I'm going to throw out Blue Lotus. I love having Blue Lotus tea before I go into trance work. So I'm throwing that one out. Azriel, any suggestions to
Oh
induce
yeah.
a trance.
Hmm. Just like, I just want to tap in onto what Brent just said, especially, the poppy seeds. Because you know what? I've worked with opium, opium incense to do meditations and stuff like that. And when we're talking about getting to that trance, a lot of individuals that I've run into, and I know a lot of close friends that can't meditate. So, it's breath work. Let's do breath work, but taking deep breaths, and maybe counting from a specific number, like 20 down to zero, and you can actually put yourself in a nice deep meditation. And when you're doing that meditation, you can even imagine drumming. That's why, like yourself, you have a couple of those hand drums that you can drum, and you can use those hand drums as part of getting yourself into that deep meditation, because it helps out. You can experiment with what resonates with you. When I had my first experiences trying to meditate, I had those issues where I couldn't stop my mind. I couldn't stop thinking. And the breath work and calming down helped me out. And it really helps. It really helps if you have an issue. But since we talked also about the incense, I work with the opium because I use a Hecate incense that it gets made for me over there by the one that we go to, not the twins, the other one.
Alchemy Arts.
Yeah, Alchemy Arts will make some Hecate incense that you can work with, which is similar to the opium. And I've noticed, but it's special ingredients. But to be on the safe side, maybe use some lavender, like Brent said, or even go with some sandalwood, something safer. And the aromatherapy will actually help you meditate, and lavender works, man. I work with lavender on a day-to-day basis, and I can leave to work, come back 8 hours, and it lingers. That protection is still around here, and it still helps you out, but it's also utilized by individuals to sleep at night. If you're restless, lavender helps you out. So if you're trying to meditate or working with the deep trance, lavender is one of the most perfect incense that you can utilize, because it'll help you relax, but also protect you.
Yes, it is really good. I'm going to just bring up that Captain Billy says he uses harmonic sounds and the didgeridoo horns. Actually, the didgeridoos are pretty cool too. They're very nice. So just to add on that, yes, like Azrael was saying, drums can get you in a very great trance state. I like Hailing is one of my favorite bands, and their music is all ritual music, pagan ritual music. It's ceremonial, and I will literally put it on and just get into a trance state. So there's a lot of that out there. You can find any drum music, and sometimes actually I have, and I've had it for so long. It's Navajo Native American flute music. I got it one time when I was going to like New Mexico or something, and it is very soothing. So that can get you in a trance state. Some people work with the self-algio frequencies to get into a trance state. I work with them with a lot of other things. I like to work with them with Reiki healing when I'm working with clients, but you can use the self-algio frequencies. And then along with the herbs, I do agree with the lavender. I also, like I said, the blue lotus. I like to drink a blue lotus tea sometimes. I make it very ceremonial when I'm drinking it. Belladonna. Know how to work with your belladonna though, because belladonna is part of the poison path. Keep in mind, belladonna is in pain medication, the ones that you can only get from a physician. I don't know if I can say the word, so the N word for pain medication. It's the sedative form. Yeah, Ezreal.
Was gonna say, it had nothing to do with what you were saying, and I accidentally was tapping, thinking out loud. This is an open discussion, right? An open panel
Yes.
tonight. Yeah, because Captain Billy, maybe he could request and maybe incorporate what he was talking regarding
Yeah, if he
his
wants to come up, he's welcome to.
yeah.
Mhm.
But yes, I'm listening. I'm sorry about that. How how sometimes we blur out something we're thinking and we don't mean to do it. So I was thinking of something, and instead of me saying it, I tapped the mic. Sorry.
No, all good, all good. Yes, so belladonna, you do want to make sure, like, know how to work with it, okay? I've studied belladonna for, oh gosh, a very long time. There's a lot of really great teachers out there. I do teach a little bit on how to use belladonna. Um, Kobe Michael is one of my teachers that I've learned to use, and so I would honestly recommend with him because he does have more years of experience. I mean, I think I'm on a decade of specifically working with belladonna because you do want to be careful. You don't want to use a lot, but it has a sedative form to it. And I will make an incense blend with it. I don't use a lot of it. I just use a little bit because it does get you into that really great trance state. So it's a good way to do it. Again, like I brought up, crystals are very helpful to get you into a trance state. There's a lot of them. I love using my moldavite. Thank you so much for everybody who's giving gifts to all of us on panel tonight, and especially for the hearts. The hearts help so much. So thank you to everybody who's given us hearts. So yes, we can use crystals, and moldavite is one that I love to work with. I know it's pretty tricky, and if you get moldavite, you kind of need to work with it for a little bit before you can really jump in with it. So keep that in mind, because sometimes moldavite doesn't like people, and sometimes it does. And so you do need to be patient with it and develop it. It's just like when you meet somebody new, you don't just become their best friend and hang out with them 24/7. But I do like working with the moldavite. The Libyan, oh gosh, all of a sudden I'm blanking on the name. I know where my piece is. It's the Libyan sand glass. I've got to like, this is gonna kill me. I can't remember it. I can't believe I forgot it. But it's a Libyan glass, and it's really great to actually. I like to work with it with the moldavite because it does enhance. And if the name pops into my head, I will blurt it out. So, and I'm surprised Bren hasn't unmuted because he sometimes knows when I'm like stuck on a crystal or something.
Oh, you mean Libyan desert glass?
Yes, thank you. So I was leaving out the desert part. I'm like, I know it's there. It is very amazing to work with moldavite. They enhance each other. So that is really
And
great.
also Tektite too.
Yes. And actually the Prophet Stone. Prophet Stone is a really good one to get you into the trance state. So if you've not tried that. So I've kind of talked about, because and the aromatherapy, we all kind of touched on that. The aromatherapy is great. If you've never used a simmer pot, you can do a simmer pot. If you've got like, where you're like, well, I don't want to be in my kitchen while I'm doing this. Actually, all you need is just get a small crock pot, because you can use a small crock pot as a simmer pot. In the simmer pot, you take the dried herbs, and you can actually also put the essential oil in it. So buy a small one that you can use for yourself. Those are fabulous to use. So, welcome, Captain Billy. Feel free. We'll let you have a turn at this. Ways that you would suggest to induce trance.
To induce a trance?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're inducing someone else into a trance, I recommend a brick.
Or any big crystal.
Yeah. Anything quick and hard will work. Now, but to drop myself into a trance takes a little bit of quieting. I have done a lot of science and research in my time, and I discovered a person who was, well, he was restricted by what part of the timeline he lived in, and all of his things couldn't come about because the technology hadn't caught up to how intelligent the man was. And so this wonderful man, Nikola Tesla, taught me to stop thinking about things the way we're taught in school and to look at things on the fact that everything has a frequency, a vibration, and a wavelength to it. And so I've learned that through harmonics, and each person's harmonic is different, each person's wavelength is different. But through harmonics, for me, is the easiest. And like I made the comment, the didgeridoo, that particular wah, wah, wah noise that comes from the didgeridoo puts me in a trance very quickly. It quiets all the excess noise in my mind. It allows my body to physically relax without any extrication on my part of it. Like I will relax whether I want to or not from the sound of a didgeridoo. And I know it's the weirdest instrument in the world to have a relaxing sensation from, but for me it's almost instantaneous. Like you start playing the sound of a didgeridoo and 30, 40 seconds later and I'm clicked into a trance and don't hear nothing or nobody around me anymore because of my harmonics. And it's because of that I always recommend that you find your harmonic, because no matter how upset you are, no matter how cluttered your mind is, once you find your harmonic, it will do the work that you can't to clear your mind and to clear your energy. And so for me, a lot of things revolve around your harmonics. And like my wife, if my wife's having a bad day, I know that I can talk in a gentle, soft voice, and it doesn't matter what I'm talking about. I could sit and rant about the technical specs of a piece of machinery to her. But the harmonics my voice puts off will put her to sleep almost instantly. And it for each person is their own sound. Mine is the didgeridoo. And I know it sounds weird, but it is. It's the didgeridoo. And it literally makes the world fall off my shoulders. And for some people, it's the song bowls. You know what I mean? Like some people can just run that thing around the song bowl and they're at peace.
Mm-hmm.
I personally, I can't stand how high pitched they are. It's like nails on a chalkboard if you have the wrong frequency. But the right frequency to each person is, it's kind of like, I really don't know how to describe it because it's such a unique sensation. Like the world crumbles away from you. None of what's going on this plane of existence matters once that sound plays. And it allows you to go into that trance on such a deep level that no outside force can pull you out unless you're willing to come out of it. And so to me, I recommend for anybody who's trying to get to the higher planes or anyone who's trying to induce a trance, that one of the things you should look for, and it's not like the only piece of the puzzle, but it's one of the things you should find to help, is your harmonic sound, your harmonic instrument. And now, if you would have asked me 10 years ago what a didgeridoo was, I would have told you it was some crazy animal in Australia. But once I found the instrument, it just clicked. You know, it's like some people when they listen to a violin, how the rest of the world just goes away and it's them and that sound. And you know, that's how you find your harmonic. It's whatever makes the rest of the world go away. And like I have a friend of mine, and his harmonic makes me laugh a little bit, but his harmonic is the sound of a diesel engine. That steady just that a diesel engine makes. Or he's gone. He, he hears a diesel engine, and his everything in the world falls away, and he is just sucked into the sound and gone. And so for me, when I'm looking for ways to induce a trance or to awaken a quiet space in my mind so that I can actually clear my mind enough to stop and think about what I need to focus on, it's harmonics for me. It's the sound and the vibration. It does something to the body that it's like cleansing the body from the inside out, if that makes any sense. Vibration is a part of everything. And to explain what I said when I first came in 15 days is the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, for those of you who don't know. I am one of the people who stayed. I didn't evacuate for Katrina, and I actually stayed through a Cat 5 hurricane that hit and became a Cat 3, but I was actually in a place called St. Bernard Parish, Louisiana, when it hit, and we got that 23-foot wall of water that came through. I got hit by that. I was there when they actually blew out the levee. You know, I heard the actual explosion when they blew the levee. But that's what I was talking about. It's 15 days until the 20-year anniversary of my worst day. That falls in the top 5 worst days of my life.
It seems like it was just yesterday because, like, that was such a big one. I mean, I wasn't in it. I didn't live near, but it had such a major impact on so many people. It seems like it was just yesterday, so that's surprising that it's been 20 years.
Yeah, it has actually been 20 years. I am one of the few people that I know that actually stayed during the actual hurricane and wasn't rescued until about 2 weeks after Katrina hit. It was still another 14 days before we could get out the parish into dry land and into a safe space to where we had food, we could make phone calls, and we could get shelter and do things somewhat normally. It's a little wow when I look at it, seeing that it's been 20 years and you know, what were you doing at 23? I was swimming out of Katrina. You know.
Well, we're glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm glad I survived it too. I'm sorry, I was
No,
My panda came in and is talking to Asriel. The panda that showed up, that's my wife.
okay. All right. Yes, and Panda said breath work, and yes, breath work is really it can get you into a really great trance state. I and it can actually calm you down if you've ever had an anxiety attack. I have a couple of my kids, and I'll be like, kids, take a deep breath in, and I just kind of calmly walk them through breath work. So breath work actually is quite miraculous. So that's another really great one. I think Bren or Azriel maybe had touched on it a little bit. I know we've been kind of going on this last question for a while. So,
Breath work is actually a big part of any meditation, and it's honestly the first place you need to start if you're like new to meditating, if you're new to putting yourself in those trances to commune back with nature and whatnot. Breath work is like your step one. Because if you don't learn to do your breath work, I have seen people who have put themselves in a trance forget to breathe because they didn't do their breath work. And they didn't learn how to breathe in the trance. And they pass themselves out from hyperventilating or not breathing whatsoever. And so, yeah, breath work is definitely a key point. You know, like y'all were talking about the herbs, and you know which herbs help you do this and which herbs help you do that. Little fun fact about it: greater than your sense of hearing, greater than your sense of sight, your sense of smell will actually trigger more memories than any other sense you have. Mike needs to go back wherever he was. He don't belong around you, Candace. But your sense of smell will actually trigger memories that you have repressed faster and easier than any other sense.
yeah, actually, I can attest to that. When I took creative writing, our teacher would have us write down a smell. And sometimes he would bring smells in and see if it triggered anything for anybody. So, yes, smell is a very big one. So, all right, we have one last question and just for those who are just joining, this is Witchy Book Club. We're talking about Spiral Dance by Starhawk. We do a chapter a week. This week's chapter is on trance work. It's literally called Trance. And we're just expanding on not just the book, but we're talking about the trance work here. And we will be doing chapter 11 next week, but we are on chapter 10 this week. So the last question is, during this section in the book, Starhawk talks about how we can gain our personal power with trance work, how we can engage our emotions, our psychic experiences, how, we can confront our shadow self, and really like influence our reality. We can become our authentic selves, and we can transform our fears, our anger, like any of our emotions, we can transform them into strengths. So, with that said, how do I have this phrase? How can developing personal power through trance work help become a better person, Bren?
Well, when you're using it and if you're aligning with what you resonate towards, if you have a lot of things that resonate to you come together and it's in unison, well, I don't think I need to explain any further than that. If everything that you have resonance towards just comes together, and if it all aligns just right, chef's kiss. But you can have all that alignment just right, but if you're not there in it, like going all face first into it, it's like you're taking the venom out of a cobra. You got a belt. Okay. You need to have that spirit of the venom in this example in the snake, so it's not just a belt that just lays there, but it has that energy to transform, take you out of that state of like, okay, I'm on this plane. Okay, hello. Oh, now in the mode with it. Just realizing that this is alignment. And the best part is, alignment can only be really understood by you. Because you know if you're aligned or if you're leaning a little bit to the left and also leaning a little bit to the right with another part of the body. Got to twist it a little bit to the left and a little bit to the right. Yeah, make them little adjustments, but and nobody else can tell you that. Well, you're out of alignment. How do you know that? Who are you to tell me about I'm out of alignment? Because you're not me. Mm-hmm.
I love that word alignment. That is so beautiful. Thank you, Bren. Azriel.
That is a powerful word, alignment. And sometimes when we have these discussions, I always make a reference to automobiles, because when we self-reflect and just like Brent said, that the alignment, it's just like an automobile. When something goes on, we don't have a light signal to tell us check engine soon or anything. So when we self-reflect, it's just a reminder for us to be balanced and aligned to our true self, which is true. But one thing that I always emphasize, and it doesn't matter on what we discuss, is always journaling. Especially when you're doing trance work, that's a good moment where you can actually record your experiences during and after your trance, because you could gain some insight about yourself, and again you can self-reflect and learn about how you can integrate what you just learned about yourself. And this increases what we always discuss is awareness. Self-awareness comes in our experiences, and everything that we learn, our experience gives us awareness. It also gives us self-awareness, and we become a better person and understand this, including our empathy. We have empathy, but how do we know, what is it? How do we use it? How can we utilize it to maintain a balance in our emotions, but yet be effective? Not effective. What's the other word? Affectionate. I can't even say the word. Affectionate. Affectionate. That's how you say it? Affectionate. When show somebody affection. I can't even say the
Affection.
word. Yes, I can't even say it. Affection. Oh, that's yeah,
Yes.
affection. So we tap in and gain empathy and understand how empathy works, and we can show our affection, which is respect, love, and and everything for an individual without being smoochy smoochy. Like I can show love for you and be affectionate with you with the positive energy as well with everybody, and that leads to a more positive behavior of me to be among you. So you doing the trance work, journaling, understanding, and integrating it on a day-to-day basis gives me more clarity, awareness, and just like the book, The Spiral Dance, it puts us in a motion of connecting to the best potential that we can be as an individual, because it's connecting to who we are. Even though we know who we are, I think Captain Billy said something that refers to that. It's oh no, it was Brent. It's we could lie. We could be lying to ourselves. But you know what? Once we self-reflect and journal and trance and all this stuff, in small words, now we know who we are. We can walk that walk because our behavior is resonating to who we are.
That is so beautiful. Yes. Thank you so much, Azriel. All right, Captain Billy.
My word is acceptance. And so to be truly aligned with oneself is to accept who you truly are. Not who you can be 5 years from now and not who you were 10 years ago. Who you are in the here and now, in that moment. Accepting that yes, you've done wrongs in your past, and yes, you will do wrong in the future. But accepting that you are who you are, you will make mistakes, you will falter, but being able to get back up, learn from it, reflect on it, understand where your part played in things going wrong, and accepting that who you are isn't who you were, you're not who you're going to be, but you are in the process of becoming that person. And accepting yourself for who you are gives you a clarity that makes it so that no one else can affect your mood. You know, you could sit here and say all the mean things in the world you want to me, and it's not going to change my perspective of who I am. I've learned to accept who I am. I've learned to accept what I've done. I've learned that through the understanding of accepting myself, I have a choice that I can make. I can let what you say hurt me, and I can let that get under my skin. I can let it bother me, but it's not your fault that it bothers me. It's mine. It's mine for letting it in. It's mine for listening to an outside source on who I am. Just like if you're sitting there telling me how great of a person I am because I can do this, that, and the other, the only way it blows up my head is if I let in what you're saying. I have to accept what you are saying as a truth and allow that to affect me. And so by accepting myself and accepting that I am who I am and I make the choice to change who I am for the better, in doing so, what anybody else has to say becomes a grain of salt. Because, yeah, you can talk all the mean stuff about me, and yeah, it's probably true. That was me at one point. And you can talk all the nice things about me, and yeah, it's probably true too at one point. But is that who I am today? I doubt it. But I've learned to accept myself every day for who I am that day. And in doing this, I have learned that I control my own narrative. If I want something bad enough, I'm going to get up and do what's needed to make it happen. If I have no interest in it, nothing you say or do is going to cause me to get up and chase it. So for me, it's acceptance. It's learning to accept oneself for who they are, learning to love yourself for who you are, and not allowing the world to play with your vibration in a way that will send it into an area you don't want it to be. It's like I've had people ask me how I can be the calm man in the storm. It's because I've accepted that this is how today is going to go. Tomorrow is a new day with new challenges. I will face today's challenges today, and I will face tomorrow when it gets here. But nothing anyone says or does can change how I'm going to face these challenges. And that works on an individual level for each person that I've ever met. And learning to accept oneself for who you are, whether the world likes you or not, doesn't matter. But if you accept yourself for who you are, you can change your perspective of the world.
That's beautiful. Thank you. We've had some really great things. I mean, trance work really brings out a lot. And if anything, I hope everybody got a message to be authentic and don't let people run who you are. I know it gets really, really hard, especially when we're young and our minds are impressionable. And so be yourself. And trance work can help get you there. And trance work can help integrate your shadow side into your light side. Especially because, like we talked about, sometimes we hide beautiful aspects of ourself in our shadow. So this was a great discussion this week. So next week we're doing chapter 10. Chapter 10 is on, it's called the initiation. So chapter 10 will be next week on Spiral Dance, again Sunday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So those of us on the West Coast, we still have sunlight when we start. So at least for another month and a half. We will be live on Tuesday for Tuesday Tarot, and we are doing the Lover's card this week. And after we go over the Lover's card, we will be doing one card pulls. So come with your questions and be ready if you have a question or just a general reading. And then Thursday will be spiritual panel, and Bren and I will brainstorm what Thursday's spiritual panel will be. So spiritual panel and Witchy Book Club are always open panels, so you can always request to come up if you want to join in the discussion. And Tuesdays are not, only because we're sharing tarot with you and pulling cards. So we're going to just give everybody a little time. Please feel free, everybody, as I call your name. If you go live, please feel free to say when you're going live. And any last words of wisdom and your goodbye. So Bren, we'll let you go first.
Well, I might probably say like about 2 to 3 hours I might be going live. So yeah, maybe I'm going to keep myself in the keister to start doing that some more. But the last words of a paradox that is helpful. Okay. Nobody is perfect, but that's why they're perfect. So if you're in that regard already, nobody is perfect, yet they are. Well, because there's only one of you right now. And anything else that's behind you, meh with it. And don't even worry about chasing perfection in the future, because you already got it. Why are you going to chase after something you already have? I have to be perfect. You already got it. Stop it. But I need to get it. I'm not perfect. You already are. Stop it. That's that's the paradox. Nobody's perfect, yet there are. But how though? There's only one of them, because there's nothing else like it. That makes it perfect. So stop trying to chase perfection.
I like that. I used to always say there was no such thing as normal because nobody's normal, but that sounds a lot better.
Yeah, because it's like no matter how hard you try to be perfect, and you're trying to make yourself the absolute perfect, is it really your perfect then, or is it somebody else's version of you in their version of you being perfect? That's why I like keep it simple. Okay, you, that's good enough. But I get up, keep it simple. But I want to be loved. There's only one of you like this right now. That's good enough. Stop making it complicated.
All right. Thank you so much, Bren. As always, I love having you on panel. All right, Azriel.
Last words or last thoughts or yeah.
Yeah, last words, last thoughts, and if you go live, if you want to say the
Oh
times you go
yeah,
live.
the live part. Well, you know what? I haven't been going live like I used to, but I've been doing some DJ live sets, mixing and stuff online because, like we're talking about tonight here, the trance and stuff like that. One of the genres in music is called trance. I don't know if you guys ever heard it, and because, it reminds you that even in dance, we can incorporate dance in our intentions and tap into a higher version, and that's what I recommend is maybe find a reason to dance, whether it's a slow song, a fast song, and use it to your, uh advantage, meaning, like a meditation. Let your body express what you're feeling. And again, you can journal it down or even record yourself dancing around. And that can show how you can actually intune yourself with the abundance around you. And I'm talking about the energy that allows you to create and manifest what you're looking for. So I'm doing DJ sets here and there, but there's no real um time schedule. So, for those that are not following me, just follow me and it will send out a notification whenever I do a live. And thank you, Rowan, for doing this, Brent, for for sharing. Also, Captain Billy, for sharing what you guys shared. Much love and gratitude, and thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Azrael. All right, Captain Billy, feel free if you go live to share your live time or any last words or thoughts.
I go live chaotically because I am chaotic neutrality. Um, I am so chaotic neutral, it's not even funny some days of the week. I don't go live on a schedule. I go live when the mood strikes me to go live, which I haven't done in almost 6 months. So it should pop in here soon. Um, my final words for everyone in here tonight would be: find a mirror, find a window, find anything that you can see your own reflection in. Remind yourself that you love you for who you are, that no one else's opinion of you is going to change who you are. Learn to accept that you've done things in your past and you'll do other things in the future. It's learning. We learn by making mistakes. Ooh, fire hot. Yep, that's hot. Ow. Don't touch that again. Fire hot. We learn by doing. We learn through experience. So accept that you are who you are. Remind yourself that you love you and that you are enough for any challenge that comes your way. No one can change who you are unless you choose to change yourself in your own way. You are your own guide. Accepting who you are and taking on your challenges will send you where you need to be. So love who you are and understand that no matter what anybody else has to say about it, you are enough for any challenge that comes your way every day. Love y'all. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Captain Billy. I appreciate Bren and Azrael and Captain Billy for joining on panel tonight for our discussion on trance work. And as always, merry meet, merry part, bright blessings, and namaste.